welcome to Trailing Off with Trevor James. I am Trevor James. If you were listening to this, well, that's pretty crazy. It's like the universe has brought us together for a reason, and that reason could really be anything. Honestly, I had an intro I really liked written up in the Notes app on my phone, and then last night my phone just took a shit on me. I lost everything on my phone. Not that I had a whole lot, but I had some pictures I really liked, and I lost all my contacts, so that's kind of a pain in the ass. But I'm not going to bitch about that. I want to talk about death. In this episode, we talk a little about death at one point, how terrified I am of death. I have 2 dogs. One's a puppy, the other is 5. I got her when I was 19, and she's been my best friend throughout my entire adult life. And I just know she's going to ruin my 30s. I've never experienced death, not really. I've known a few people that have died, but I can't even think about them or I get really upset. I'm the kind of guy I want to prepare for everything. I think that's a pretty human thing to want to prepare for stuff that scares us. I think it helps us pretend we have some modicum of control, but in reality we don't have any control. We're just falling through space on a rock, man. And it's beautiful, so why spend time worrying? We're gonna die anyway. And whatever your religion tells you doesn't really matter, because there's no way to prepare for it anyways. My dog's gonna die one day. My mom is too. So will my grandparents. And I hate it. It scares me. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 11, Krishna says, neither for the living nor the dead does a wise man lament. I think that's pretty wise, but it's hard to practice, as is a lot of things in the Bhagavad Gita. If you've never read the Bhagavad Gita, you should read it. It's pretty cool. It's kind of this story about a prince who doesn't want to fight, but the god character Krishna is convincing him and telling him why he should. And it's not about violence so much. It's more of a metaphor for like just anything hard you want to do in your life. And I've talked about that quite a bit. You know, hard things are hard to do. That's why they're hard to do. Sorry, that's my dog licking herself. Tara, knock it off. Today's guest is Pamela Topjian. She is an author and a badass. She was a nurse for 14 years. And then she got out of an abusive relationship, took a one-way ticket to California, and now she's living her best life. She was super inspiring to talk to. Honestly, I've been having a shitty couple weeks, and talking to her made me feel a little better. You should check out her book. I didn't come this far to only come this far. I don't think I said it right one time in the episode. I kept tongue-twistering it, but I didn't come this far to only come this far. It's a really good book about her trauma, and her other book, Behind the Mask, Scrubs and Gloves, One Nurse's Journey. That's her story, or her experiences in nursing. You can find both these on Amazon, Kindle, you know. Her Linktree will be in the episode description if you want to check out her stuff. She's got a YouTube channel. She does hypnotherapy. She does a bunch of stuff. She's kind of a busy lady. You can Google her name. She's also been on a bunch of other podcasts talking about her stuff. She's real cool to talk to. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Yeah, here's Pamela Topjian. Thank you for coming on my show.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
thank you for having me.
yeah, of course. So, how's your week been?
My week has been pretty good. Um, Nothing new actually. We've had, I do holistic connections with conversations with holistic practitioners on YouTube, just on YouTube, not a podcast. And so I
Mm.
had a guest for that this week.
So, it's
And
like your YouTube channel?
yeah,
I didn't realize you had a YouTube channel. That's cool.
yeah.
What'd you say that was called?
Well, the feature is called Holistic Connections, but that's not the name of the channel. The name of the channel is just my name,
Okay.
Pamela Topjian.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
because I have mostly like guided visualizations and guided meditations on there mostly. And then I just started this new feature.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, anybody listening, you should check that out. That sounds pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I
So
also have some self-help and self-care types of information on there. So it's kind of a
that's
little
cool.
bit of a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's stuff I'm really interested in, but being as I'm 24, I don't really know a whole lot about. So, I guess that's pretty cool. That's so I kind of already mentioned to you. I think you have articulated your story really well on a lot of the podcasts you've been on. Your book,
Thank you.
what is it? It's got a really long name. Um, what?
So there's two books. One is I Didn't Come This Far to
That's the
Only
one
Come
I'm
This
talking about.
Far.
Yep. I
Yeah.
didn't come this far to only come that far. So I've read, I think, the first four chapters.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's
thank
all I
you.
got through so far. But um,
Yeah.
I can tell. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it. I can tell it's going to be a hard read. I'm not good at reading
Yeah.
stuff about like sexual assault and stuff. It's really hard
Right.
for me. But it's definitely an
Well,
interesting story so far. I mean, and you tell it really well for sure.
thank you. Thank you. One thing about it being kind of a hard read, is to know that it does get better at the end. You know what I
That's
mean?
good. Yep.
So if you feel like quitting, just know that
Push
this
through.
is
Push
who
through.
comes out.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Or if there's a part that's really difficult, because there are some areas in there
Mm-hmm.
that are really difficult, you know, feel free to pass through them.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
feel guilty about it.
I mean,
Like I want to get to the healing part.
I barely got into the boys will be boys chapter, and I was like, ooh, this is already hard to
Mm,
read. So I'm not, doesn't
yes.
take much to get me. But um,
Yeah.
anyways, like I said, like I told you, I don't want to talk too much about the book because I think you've
Okay.
articulated it so well.
Yeah.
There's a whole
Thank
bunch of
you.
other stuff I want to get into because you seem like a super interesting person. Um,
Thank you.
but I was thinking, as I had said, be good to maybe give a summary just for some background for the listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am Pamela Topjian. I'm on the West Coast. I am a former nurse of 14 years, and that was my second book, actually. I wrote a book about that experience, behind the mask, gloves, and scrubs. But then when I quit nursing during the pandemic, I went to hypnotherapy. So I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I also do pet sitting. And yeah, so as we were talking about with the first book, we can delve into as much of that as you want or not. I know it's not necessarily the book, but the story that you kind of
Yeah,
are interested in, because that's really the story of my life. And at the end of that story, is just, how I got out of, it was a lifelong trauma and then a total mental breakdown. And I don't think you're to that part yet, but there's a total mental breakdown about 2015 or so, after my second marriage, when I left my second husband. Then I had a total breakdown, but then I started really getting much better, and my life is much better than I ever expected that it could be even possible now. So yeah, it's just there's a
that's
lot
awesome.
there.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because trying to think of how to articulate this. My mother, she's had a rough go, and I don't know my mother's story at
Mhm.
all because my mom's not the kind of person that would tell me her story. But I know
Right.
enough about my father to know that there's no way it was easy. So
Yeah.
so I definitely think that's cool. And I think there's a lot of people who aren't. I mean, I don't want to say not brave enough, but are scared to get out of that. And so I think it'd be cool for I think it's
Yeah.
good for people to hear that kind of story for sure.
Exactly. And that's the reason I published that book, is because I wanted people to see stories of somebody. I had two abusive marriages, and a total mental breakdown. And then a lot of times people, and this is not, a lot of people have been through those kinds of things, but it's a lot of times once people get near 50 or their late 40s
Right.
or, a little bit more middle-aged or even later, they kind of just sort of settle into like, okay, this is my life now,
That's
and they just
exactly
don't really do too much. Just and not and it has nothing to do with like bravery or anything like that. It has to do with feeling hopeless, feeling like there's no way, how am I going to get out of this? Or, is it even worth trying? I'll just wait it out sort of thing, once you're past 50 and that.
right.
And so I think that like I was going to say, that's why I published it, is so that people can see that there is hope, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that you're not too old, and whatever you've been through, like in your past or whatever you're going through at the moment, there's always still, hope
Right.
that it can get better. As long as you can have a little bit of hope, then you can get through it.
Right.
You don't have to know how or why, or I mean, well, we know the why, but for a better life, but
Right.
but you don't have to know how you're going to do it. You don't have to know every step of the way to be able to get there.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I would venture as far to say you have helped people. I mean, if anybody's read that book, it's. I mean, I'm sure it has.
Yeah, yeah, there's some nice
It's.
nice reviews, and people
I'm
have
sure.
people have written to me personally and didn't write a review.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's
But
awesome.
I would just want to say out there too, for anybody reading, not only my book, but any books that are by like indie authors, in the sea of Amazon, please write a review, if just an honest review,
That's
or just give stars or something, because it just helps it to be seen more
right.
in the big sea of Amazon.
For sure. Oh yeah. Same with this podcast. Leave a review on this podcast if you're listening to
Right,
this. Uh, so,
right.
so you're self-published then? Is that what that's what I've
Yes.
gathered? Yeah. So, how, what is that's got to be hard. What are some challenges that come with self-publishing a book? That's got to be
Yeah.
tricky.
So I did a whole video on this topic, on my YouTube channel, but, so some of the challenges is you're alone. You feel so alone in it, and you don't, if you've never been, somebody that has been known an author, had an author in your family or your friends, or is just completely new to you, the challenges are that you're so alone and you don't know what you're doing. And when you reach out for help, you get people wanting to sell you their service,
Yep, that's it too.
So, and that's with a lot of things too, right?
Oh, it's
Everybody hears you with a question and they want to sell you
yeah.
their program or their
That
service.
that's it
So.
with podcasts too, and I'm sure it's a little
Right.
different with books, but man, I've noticed after
Yeah.
I feel really confident about these, and then as soon as I put them out, I just feel really silly. Like just I I don't know. It's hard to explain, but no, it's cool to hear that. Not cool to hear, but refreshing to hear. I guess that's everything, huh?
Yeah,
um,
yeah. And I think that, once you get going and stuff, you only have two right now, right? So that are
mm-hmm.
published and out there. So I think that, after you get 100 episodes in, after you get 50
Exactly.
episodes in, I mean, just the more you do it, you'll get,
Right.
sort of get your groove. And I always feel too, like even with my book, I mean, and my YouTube channel and anything that I do, I feel like you just hope that the right people who need it and who will get something out of it will find it. You just have to have sort of faith that that's going to happen, because those people will find their way to what they need if they're looking. And for years, for your podcast, even if people just want to have a podcast of just people talking about whatever, people's stories and just other conversations with people that they might not even have ever come across, somebody who has those point of views or who has done something that they're interested in. So,
Well,
yeah.
well, one thing I think, like every podcast I listen to, they're like in their 50s, 60s. You know what I mean? Nobody, I
Right.
don't think anybody wants to listen to a 24-year-old. I don't think I have the
Oh,
experiences and perspectives. So in my head, this is really just I don't know. I'm just doing it so that when I am 30, 40, I'm good at it. You know what I mean?
like a hobby. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't know.
yeah.
And it's fun,
And
and
that's good. Yeah,
I
that's good though.
I really enjoyed the conversations I've had. Like it's
Yeah.
just I don't know, and like you're just awesome already. I love it. I love doing
Well,
this
thank
so
you.
far. I get so nervous
Yeah, and
sometimes.
if you're having fun, that's the
Yeah,
main thing. I mean, and that's
exactly.
how I live my life now, like if people have asked me, I've had a couple people ask me, do you like it when I'm talking about like pet sitting? Because I love it. And it's like, do I like it? I'm not doing it for any reason other than how much I love
Right,
it.
right.
So it does make money, but it's not something you could live off of.
Mm,
And I'm not doing it for the money. I
right,
wouldn't do it for the money. If I
right.
was to do something just for money, I would have stayed in nursing.
Yeah, I've heard they make pretty good
But
money. I've heard they
yeah,
do.
they can. And that's one of the things about nursing too is there's so many different types of nursing, so many
Right.
different jobs under the umbrella of nursing that if you're not happy where you are, don't stay there and suffer.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like anything, like, a marriage, a job,
Hmm.
anything, don't stay there and suffer in it.
So, are these the first books you've written, or just the first books you've published?
No, these are the first ones that I've written. The first one was, I started it as a journal. I didn't even plan on it being a book.
The first one was
I
the I
was,
didn't come this far to come this far. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, to only come this far.
Right.
Yeah, and that was just published in 2022.
Hmm.
And it took me 5 years to write it. But like I said, so I started it as a journal, as I was going through therapy and kind of, to find out, to kind of learn about myself and how I got to that point of like that major breakdown I was talking about. It's like, how did I get here? Just kind of writing out everything of my life from this point to this point and how, just to connect those dots and fit it all together so it made sense in my head. And because I felt like I was so close to like losing my mind, with that breakdown. And it really helped me to kind of reel it all in and to see what happened. But another reason I was writing the journal is for my kids. So I've got two adult children. Both of them are older than you, but but they haven't read the book and they don't want to. And I don't blame them, and
Yeah, I
I
don't blame them.
would never ask them
I
to.
couldn't read my mom's. If
Um,
my mom had wrote a book like that, I would not be able to. No
yeah,
way. No
right,
way. But
right. And so I thought, if I had, so at that time during that mental breakdown, I was, suicidal and very depressed and anxious. And as I was writing it, I thought partially if those thoughts won, then there would be, not like a suicide note kind of a thing, but just like so people could understand and see what I had been through in my life and what got me to that point. If I wasn't going to come out of that breakdown, if I wasn't going to get better, then at least there would be that journal of how did she get to this point, for other people like in my family. So that was another reason I was writing it. And then when I read other memoirs of people, there's people who have been through really horrific things. Like a lot of what I've been through is very similar to what a lot of other,
hmm,
people have been through, and especially middle-aged women have been through a lot
yes,
of the
for sure.
same. And so it's nothing spectacular or different about me,
Mm,
but
I disagree there,
reading,
but
well,
I think you're pretty
thank you.
spectacular. But
But, it just
mm,
shows people that, whatever you're going through, you can get out of it. Um, but so I was reading other memoirs, and that's what made, and I could relate with a lot of those feelings, and it gave me hope to know that people can come out of it too. So that's when I decided to go ahead and publish it. Plus, also, I thought like too for like my ancestors, like I don't have grandchildren yet, and there's um, nothing that shows there will be any grandchildren anytime soon. But if I have grandchildren, or even if I don't, but like ancestors down the road, I think it would be really cool if I had like a great great grandma's or even a great great aunt's memoir that they wrote of their life. If you think, 50, 60 years down the road, or even 100 years down the road, whatever it is, to say, yeah, this ancestor of mine, this was her life, and this is,
no,
I
that
would
is
think
cool.
that'd be pretty cool.
I agree with you 100%. I want to do a podcast with my grandpa just for that, just to
Oh,
have it,
so fun.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he doesn't think he wants to be online. I gotta convince him to be online, but he's got some cool stories.
Yeah, tell him that, he can have final say. Like you guys can watch it
Yeah,
together or
right,
listen after, and then he can decide if it's okay to go on, and
right.
and if he doesn't want to say who he is or he doesn't want to say that he's your grandpa,
Yeah.
then if he wants a little bit of privacy and this is just some however old he is guy that, he's got some cool stories and here they are.
hmm
Yeah, that would be great.
So, so you said you're from Missouri originally, yeah?
Nope, I'm from the suburbs of Chicago.
Oh.
And and then from there, I moved with my first husband, I moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for 15 years.
Mm,
And then I was in Arizona for a few years, and then I went to Missouri for 4 years.
okay.
And when I was in Missouri, that's when I divorced the second husband, and that's when I moved, had that mental breakdown, and that's when I got on the bus with a one-way ticket to
Yeah.
California. And
So,
that's been, I think, 8 years now.
one-way ticket to California at 50. That's crazy.
Alone.
Yeah.
It
That's
is
crazy.
crazy. When I think about it now, I laugh because I just can't believe
Yeah,
that it's like
that's
a whole different lifetime.
yeah. That is great. And you seem so happy now. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
After reading the first 4 chapters of your book, it just makes me so happy to just see how happy of a person you are.
Yeah, thank you. And like I said, if you stick through it or if you want to pass through it, you'll see some of the healing.
Oh, I will
And
for sure.
yeah.
I
And that, like I said, that was published in 22. So now it's 24, the end of 24. So even a lot has happened since then. So I do plan on either doing a revision or doing a second
right.
one, that's just
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Right on. So, what are some big differences? You said you went to Sacramento. Is that correct? What are
I
some
am
big things that you've noticed about Sacramento that are different than other places?
so the driving, the traffic. Um, there's a mindset in California that's kind of so the whole time of my life, even though I've moved around a lot, it's always been mostly in the Midwest, other than like the few years in Arizona. And so it's a lot more laid back in California, and just like you would expect, it's a lot more laid back, and there's not near as much judgment of differences. There is LGBTQ community that is just, you don't even notice,
That's awesome.
it's everywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so yeah, they're just more laid back and
Yeah.
non-judgmental around here, but the traffic is terrible.
I
And
bet.
another thing about them being laid back is like people aren't as strict in their time. Like somebody might be, they're most likely going to be late,
Oh, I hate that. I
no
can't be
matter
late.
what you
I'm an
do.
early bird. Yeah.
I am too. I'm always like strictly on
Yeah.
time, if
Yeah.
not early.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's not what it's like around
Yeah.
here. Also doing pet sitting, so a lot of the dogs are treated like better than a lot of human children.
Yeah.
And I would not have had the same success that I do with this job in the
I'm
Midwest
sure. I'm
anywhere.
sure. I'm sure. I was going to ask about that cuz
Yeah.
but the reason I ask is cuz I can only imagine there are a lot of people and just a lot of people out there who want to move to California cuz that's like the dream, right?
Mm.
I just think that's everybody's kind of I'm too scared, man.
Mm.
I don't know, man. So
Well,
that's
it's
why I ask.
expensive.
Yeah,
It's
that's
expensive. It's more expensive here than most places.
yeah.
And
I live in Colorado. I think we're second, but
yeah,
I know you guys are still quite a bit ahead of us.
yeah.
But
Yeah, there's also, as there's a lot to do. Like if you want to go skiing, you can go further up north. If you
yeah.
want to go to the ocean, I mean, California is pretty huge. There's just so much to do, and
Take it you
and
like it
I
there,
love
no?
that about it.
Yeah, I take it you
Yeah.
like it there.
And I love too that so everywhere I've lived, there's been snow, but up in the Upper Peninsula, there's like snow from like October to June.
No,
And so, where I live in California, there's no
no
snow.
snow.
And
You don't like snow?
no,
I would miss the snow. I love snow. I love
I
snow.
have had enough snow in my whole life that I never need to see a flake again.
That's why I live in Colorado. I love snow.
Yeah.
Well, as an adult, I gotta say it's kind of going away. It's having to work in it. It's hard to,
Right.
you know,
It's the driving
yeah, it's hard to
and
it's hard to like it in
yeah,
that way. But I've always
yeah.
liked the snow. So I kind
And
of,
I have arthritis and that, and the cold
mm,
literally hurts,
yeah, that'll get you.
Yeah.
That'll get you. Well, I want to ask you about this hypnotherapy stuff because I don't know anything about it uh, beyond. I saw one like hypnotist show when I was a kid, and it blew my mind because they hypnotized my buddy, and like I knew he
Yeah.
wouldn't fake the stuff that he was doing up there. It
Right.
was just the funniest. So, um, can you tell me a little bit about what you do specifically with
Yeah.
hypnotherapy?
So hypnotherapy is different than like the shows that you would see or what
Mm-hmm.
you see on the movies. It's not it's not a hypnotic, it's using hypnosis in a therapeutic manner. So it's very much like a dream state, you're in a trance state. Um, and I just talk the client down into a physical relaxation, and then I talk them, so their conscious mind is quiet, and then we address the subconscious mind to focus on whatever their goals are. So it really feels very much like, like if you're really engrossed in a book or a movie, and you're just really focused on it, or you're doing something that you really love and the time just seems to
Mm-hmm.
fly by because you're just so focused on it. So that's what it feels like. Or even just before you wake up or just before you go to sleep, to that kind of
Yep.
in between state, it
Mm-hmm.
feels like that. But we can, you can reach your goals, you can get rid of bad habits,
Yep.
you can release the blocks and obstacles that have been keeping you back from whatever you want to do in your life. So it's very different than, I don't use a stopwatch, and I don't touch anybody, and
Right.
I do it all actually through Zoom and that.
Right.
So
So
so yeah.
he what he used, the guy I watched, and again I'm not trying to compare it, I know it's different, but
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
he was he had everybody was visualizing clouds. Is that like some maybe a kind of technique you've just
They were visualizing what?
yeah, because he just was having everybody visualize clouds, and then
Oh, wow.
something happened. I don't know. He said something. The cloud disappeared, and then he was able to make him do whatever. But
Ah.
it was
Well,
just
that is one of the things. So I use a lot of different kinds of inductions, and one of them I say that, and you allow your thoughts to come in and move
mm-hmm.
out again. And just like the clouds, in the with the vivid blue sky, you
Mm,
watch the clouds float on by, and your mind will become
right.
clear, just like that kind of thing. So I do use that one as well. But it's after the whole relaxation of your whole body. And it just helps to clear the mind a little bit. But there's other ones too, like, like a leaf floating down a stream, going around the bend and disappearing from sight. So it's just relating your thoughts to these things that kind of go through and move by and
Mm-hmm.
dissipate, or disappear.
So, are there people who can't be hypnotized, or is it can you pretty much get anybody into that trance?
Well, I don't have, so if anybody asks me to prove it to them or told me they don't believe in it,
Mm,
or they challenge me like that, it's not somebody I want to work with.
right.
So anybody that comes to me that works with me is somebody that's either had it before or they're curious about it and they're not sure if they can be, but they're open to trying. A lot of times people come to me who have tried so many different things. They've been in therapy for many years, or, they've had other types of alternative therapies or holistic modalities and that, and they just wanted to try to see how hypnotherapy would work for them as well. But we're not supposed to. So we were taught anybody that has any seizure disorders or anybody that is diagnosed schizophrenia, it's not really safe to do on those people. And so there's that. But there are people that come to me and say, I don't know if this is going to work because I can't imagine. I can't see things in my mind vividly when I'm trying to imagine something. And so what I tell those people is, like if I tell you and I have an apple in my hand, or to visualize an apple in my hand, even if you can't imagine that, even if you don't have, like, I can close my eyes and I can see an
Right.
apple in my mind if somebody tells me
Mm-hmm.
to imagine an apple. But some people don't have that kind of imagination. So I tell those people, but you know what I'm talking about. If I say an apple, you know what I'm talking about. You don't have to actually see it
Mm-hmm.
in your mind's eye. So it's the same kind of thing with, even things that we've never seen, of course, like a unicorn,
Mm-hmm.
or a mermaid or something.
Mm-hmm.
We know what they look like, but we've never seen one in person. We know what they're supposed to look like. And so you don't have to see it in your mind's eye to know what that is.
You're saying some people can't visualize things in their imagination
Right.
like that. That
Right.
that's kind of crazy to me. But
I know, isn't it? It's interesting to know how other people, like,
yeah,
you just assume that everybody thinks, can imagine the
yeah.
way you do. Or like there's a thing too where I've seen recently people talking about, when we think to ourselves, when we talk to ourselves, do you like hear
That
your voice in your
that's what I
head?
was gonna
And
bring up because I've read that too. That
yeah,
some people don't have an inner monologue, and that
yeah,
blew my mind. I like, how could you not? I can't shut mine off.
I
And
know. And
I
that's the
asked my
big problem. A lot of people can't. Yeah.
yeah, I asked my girlfriend about it, and she swears she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't hear
That's
myself
so
think.
crazy
What are
to
you
me
talking about? I'm like,
too.
that just doesn't make sense to me. So
I
that was what I
know.
wanted. That's
Like, how is it just always quiet in there or what,
yeah, I
And
don't.
just get just only the input that you get from your outside world? Yeah.
I guess it
Yeah.
makes sense the way some people are just on autopilot in the world, man. But yeah, I just that's crazy to me. And so to think some
Yeah.
people
And
can't picture stuff.
you
That's
know those people who are really busy, like they're always busy, busy, busy,
yeah,
busy. I
yep.
wonder if those are the people that don't have an inner mind, inner dialogue.
Maybe I don't know. I feel like I got to keep myself busy to. That's how I keep mine from
Yeah.
not shutting up. You know.
Right.
uh, but no, so yeah, that's pretty interesting. I like that hypnotherapy thing. I guess most of what I know about it, other than that one show, would be from like alien stuff, because
Yeah.
that's they always say. But I don't
Yeah.
know. It's regressive memories. I guess that's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, there's past life regression, and then
Mm-hmm.
so there's Dr. Brian Weiss, who's like in his 70s or 80s, and he's kind of the grandfather of past life regression. He was
Okay.
a doctor of psychology or psychiatry, and he came across it, without even he had known about hypnotherapy and had used it in his
Mm-hmm.
practice, but then he had patients that would slip into a past life or slip
Mm-hmm.
into the time before they were born, just completely, unprovoked in that way. And, like he wasn't trying to do that. He didn't even believe in that. And
Hmm.
so he's the one that kind of brought that to the Western world. And then and he also does a school. He teaches that as well. And then there's Dolores Cannon, who you might have heard of. She also is kind of one she's no longer alive, but she does, it's quantum something something is like her program, but it's basically past life regression. And then she also is the one that she'll say, she's had alien contact through these really deep hypnosis sessions with people, and her too. Like she'll say that people, she's both of them have written a lot of books. So if you're interested in them, so that's Dolores Cannon and then Dr. Brian Weiss. But she's also had people, go into like a different being besides a human as like their past life or before birth. So that's really interesting for sure. I mean, that's not the kind of hypnotherapy that I do, but there's different kinds, and that's one of them. That's really super
Yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
The brain is crazy. It's really interesting. I'm
Right. Yeah.
I'm really interested
Yeah,
in
like they
learning
say,
about
like
it and stuff.
the universe and the ocean and our brain. We don't
Yeah.
know about all
Yeah.
those three
Right.
things are
Right.
still huge mysteries. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to ask you. Sorry if this is kind of an awkward question, but so as a hypnotherapist, I just kind of curious about your opinion on like
Yeah.
psychedelics.
Yeah. There is a big, so in my lifetime, I've seen it go from, completely illegal and taboo
Mm-hmm.
to people experimenting, and then there being like, you can almost like ayahuasca or whatever that is,
Mm-hmm.
with the plant medicine. I think that in a controlled environment, if people want to use psychedelics to expand their mind,
Mm-hmm.
to help themselves spiritually, or to help themselves with some trauma or something to get through whatever is holding
Oh,
them
for
back.
sure.
So hypnotherapy can be used with psychedelics in a very controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not something that I'm interested in doing with people, but that takes a whole nother level. But I think you need to be very careful as well. There are horror stories that are real. There's a lot of horror stories that
As
aren't real.
as somebody who's done my share of acid, and I mean I've done my share of acid.
Hmm.
Um, if you are not, you could mess yourself up, and
Right,
I will tell anybody that do not do it if you don't. Well, I don't
right.
know,
If you're
but
not sure and you
yeah,
don't have,
you can. I mean, I haven't done it in a long time because the last time I did it, I, yeah, it was bad. So I'm
yeah.
scared of it now, but I'm just interested to hear people's perspectives on it. And
Yeah, I think it can be a great tool for a lot of things, but I also want to discourage people from just kind of,
for sure. Oh yeah,
flippantly
me too.
trying it like,
Me too. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if you're. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna say. Yeah, I agree with you. um, are you religious or spiritual at all?
I would say at first, well, I'm not religious, and I don't know that I consider myself spiritual, but most other people probably would say I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in, we are all connected,
Mm-hmm.
and, we are all part of the same. It's almost like a drop in the ocean.
Right.
It's like it's hard to say this drop is part of the ocean because it is the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that that's how we all are in this universe. We are all part of each other and part of the stars and even things that we consider non-living, like rocks and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like we're all connected together in that. So I believe in universal energy and there being something more than what we are even aware
Mm-hmm.
of, like, like the air around us,
Yeah.
and just like a
Right.
fish in water is not aware of the water, right? So, I feel like there's not something bigger and better than us, but it is us, we're
Right.
all floating in that same pool of whatever
Yeah, I'd say I agree with you.
consciousness.
Uh, have you heard of Ram Dass?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that sounds a lot like the kind of stuff that he talks about, and that's the stuff I'm interested. I'm not.
yeah.
I hate to say I'm spiritual because again, I'm 24, man. I haven't connected with anything yet. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in. I read a lot of books about that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
so
So
always just
speaking of that, I have a question for you,
okay. Go shoot.
since this is a trailing off
Yeah,
podcast.
let's trail off.
So, do you have any paranormal experiences, or are you
Yeah,
interested in
I was
paranormal at
gonna
all?
ask you that same question. Actually, I
Ooh.
just wasn't. Me, I don't. Let me think. I don't really have any paranormal experiences myself. I have some that I think I tricked myself into, but my
Yeah.
mom has some good ghost stories.
Ah,
But my,
how old is your mother, if
uh,
I might ask?
I feel really bad because I'm gonna get it wrong, and then,
Oh,
But I think she's in her 50s somewhere.
okay. So she's around my age. That's what I
Yeah, yeah,
figured.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But she's got lots of ghost stories. She's really into ghosts. But
Oh,
me, I'm kind of just terrified of death. So I don't.
are you?
I'm terrified of it. I
Hmm.
think a lot of people that say they're not are lying. A lot of people, not
I'm not
everybody.
terrified of death.
No, I
Um,
am. I'm not even so much my death is like
hmm.
I I've only ever had one person in my life die, and it was when I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid, and he was one of my friends in
Yeah.
school, and I still think
Oh,
about it. You know what I mean? I still think of it.
well,
We
that
were
was
in
a
the
kid that died.
we
That
were
is
in the fourth
scary.
grade. I'm like,
Mm.
sometimes I'm still like, that guy never kissed a girl. You know, that guy
Right.
never got to do nothing, and it just.
Right.
But I
Yeah, you think about that with children who pass, how much, I mean,
oh, it
I have
breaks
a
my
sister
heart.
that passed away at 18. Was in a car accident, and that was just 2 days before my 14th birthday. But there's so much potential lost. The
Mm-hmm.
the grief is not just because you miss the person, it's because the loss of their potential.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
so much that they don't get to do. And that's another thing too about aging, is like you never know, like, when is going to be your last. If when you have children, when is the last time you picked them up and carried them around? You never know, because a lot of times they want you to. They're like 8 or 9 and they're almost as big as you, and they still want you to pick them up, and maybe you do once or twice, but then they're at one of those times is going to be the
Yeah.
last one. And when you're older, it's like, I've got bad hips now, my hands are bad, and it's like, things that I used to do I don't do anymore, and you think, when was the last time for this or for that, and you never know when it's going to be. And my mother in her 80s, it's like, did she know that that was the last time she was gonna kiss her husband, or did she know that was of course she didn't,
Yeah.
or
I
the last
think.
time she drove when they told her she couldn't drive
Oh.
anymore. It's,
Yeah.
you know,
Think about my grandparents a lot because I haven't went and visited my grandparents, and I've seen my grandparents twice in like 4 years, and I just feel
oh
terrible because
gosh,
like,
yeah.
but they're I don't know, 100 excuses. But anyways, now I've had some time to think. I do have one ghost story that
Okay.
this is the one I like to tell, I guess. So
Okay.
I was 14, man. I was just a kid. That's why I'm like I might have been tricking myself, man. But it was me and a bunch of my friends were at one of my friends' house, and I we was there was like six of us packed into this little tiny room. Like what could have been a fire. I shouldn't have. Anyways, I was looking at the door. I don't even remember why I was looking at the door, and I seen like a flash in front of the door, and I was like, oh, I must
Hmm.
be seeing shit. I didn't even think. And then one of the other guys was like, did you guys just see that in front of the door? And as soon as his
Ah.
sentence finished, the curtain rod, and it was one of those like loopy curtain rods, you know what I mean? That so it'd
Mm-hmm.
have to be like
Mm-hmm.
just slammed onto the ground. So we're just like, what the
Wow.
hell? That's my ghost story. I don't know. You got any good
Yeah.
ghost stories?
I do actually.
Because I read in your book that you were in a haunted house for a bit. So.
Yeah, yeah. So the first place I lived, so when I was little, I used to see this, I call them like a ghost family. And I used to see them in the house. And the funny thing about that is I didn't really think it was anything different or odd, because how do you know when you're little that other people aren't seeing these same things? It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know why
Right.
they're not talking about it, but they only came out at night too. They'd just be walking around like, like they lived
Hmm.
in the house, but at night.
That's crazy.
And one of my friends, who's my same age, after I wrote and published the book, I hadn't talked to her in a long time, and she got a hold of me, and she said, "I remember sleeping over at your house," and we were like 7. She said, "I remember sleeping over at your house, and you telling me not to worry about them if I see them."
Oh.
She said she couldn't sleep that whole night then. She
Hmm.
was really scared, but I didn't even think of it as anything crazy like that. But I do have some other stories. So,
I want to hear all of them.
as a
Go for it.
nurse, I was working at this
Ooh.
hospital that was a very old hospital. It was like really rickety, kind of small town hospital. And they were building a new one, but we were still working in the old one. And there was this one room that anytime a patient was in that room, they asked for another room. It was just too creepy. It just felt really creepy. And a lot of times patients would see somebody sitting in the corner,
Hmm.
um, you know, no matter if it wasn't, an Alzheimer's patient or a 20-year-old who had surgery, it didn't matter. Almost everybody was like, who was there in somebody was sitting there in the corner all night.
Hmm.
Nope.
That's wild.
So I never saw anything in that room, but I was just, it felt really
Yeah.
creepy. and I'm not usually normally scared of anything like that because of my experience when I was little, I guess. But that I was kind of scared to go in that room.
Mm-hmm.
It just had a bad feeling more than anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But also, so more recently, so my husband works from home and I work from home. You know, I was doing hypnotherapy. And so when he is in a meeting, he would close his door to his office. And when I'm on a Zoom call or doing hypnotherapy in any way, I would close the door to mine. And we both, that was how we knew, you know, don't bother me, my door's closed, I'm on a call or in a meeting or something. So I was doing hypnotherapy and he had a meeting. So both of our doors were closed to our offices. And my door opened in the middle of hypnotherapy and then it closed slightly. And I was in the middle of like my spiel, you know, I was just
Mm-hmm.
talking and I was facing the opposite. So the door was behind me and it opened up and then it closed very slowly. And I thought, what the heck? He knows when the door's, you know, I was like kind of mad at him, like, what is he
Right.
doing? You know? And then, so when I was done, his door was open then. So when I was done, I went and said, what did you need? What did you want? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you came in
Hmm.
and opened my door. He's like,
Hmm.
no, I didn't. I thought you opened my door. Because so somebody opened his
His
door
too,
too.
huh? Huh.
And yeah,
That's wild.
so yeah, so that was pretty weird.
Hmm.
And so I've had other experiences like with like a bad dream, or it doesn't really feel this is going to sound really strange, but like when you're sleeping, and I don't know if it's like sleep paralysis, but like when you're sleeping and it's just you feel like you're awake, but you can't really do anything. So you're like laying there kind of awake, but this big, like kind of like a presence came over
Yeah.
and it was just like dark energy, like it didn't have a form or
Yeah.
anything. And what's weird about it is I wasn't scared of it. It was like I knew that like I had to like I knew that I had to just like, you know, either fight it off or ignore it or
Right.
something, like what you're trying to do with your dog right there.
Yeah, my
And
puppy. I talked about her in the last episode. She's she's yeah, she's fun.
yeah. So so I just kind of like was yelling at it, but it was in my mind because I couldn't speak and I was yelling at it to go away, that I didn't need it there. You're not scaring me, just leave, you know. And then for some weird reason, it kind of went into a dream. So I have an sort of an ex-stepson who passed away, um, who he had committed, or he had, you know, he had died through suicide.
Oh,
Just trying to figure out the right way to say
I'm sorry
that.
to hear that.
So yeah, and that
My
was quite a few
condolences.
years ago. But so the thing turned into like him, and like I
Hmm.
was telling him, it's okay. You can go back where you came from. You're
Right.
okay.
Right.
And then that was that. And I don't
Hmm.
know what that is or what that was,
It did sound
but
like sleep paralysis at first, but
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what that
But then I
second
like
part
probably
was.
fell asleep, and then somehow
Maybe.
it turned
Yeah.
into him. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I've only had
I don't
sleep
know.
paralysis once, and
Yeah.
it was when I was pretty young. It freaked me out. I thought
Yeah.
I was going crazy. I drew
Oh
pictures
yeah.
of it and showed my
Oh yeah.
therapist, and that's when she kind of explained it. But
Right,
hmm,
right. Yeah, it can feel like you're dying. It can feel like
yeah,
you're, you know,
terrifying,
being pressed up against a rock or something,
terrifying.
like something's on your chest and you can't
Mm-hmm.
breathe, or it can feel like you're being abducted, you know,
Yeah.
like I mean, yeah, I've had it a few times, but I've come to a point in my life that, you know, if I start to feel that weird way, because it's a weird physical feeling first, then I can like move and like wake myself up and sit up and stuff and like come out of it before it happens. So, yeah. So I've also had a time where, so I wear Crocs in the house, like as my like house slippers, like
Oh.
house shoes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they never go outside. So, um, one day, like I woke up and I couldn't find them, and I was asking my husband, "Have you seen my Crocs?" You know, because it's weird to lose them within the house. You know, it's like I
Right.
never take them off unless I'm showering or changing or whatever. And like I woke up and they weren't by my bedside. And I was like, that's really weird. So then in my husband's office, they were there like together, like, you know, both of them together facing like out his window. It's like, that's so weird. Why
That
would
is
they be
weird.
over there?
Hmm.
And we thought that was probably a little something maybe paranormal, you know,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have just like I wouldn't have walked over there
I'm done.
in the middle
Yeah,
of the night,
yeah.
especially, and then like left my shoes. I'm not a sleepwalker. I
Yeah.
never have been, and
I mean,
just weird.
I've put my phone in the fridge before, fucking, but I put my phone in some weird places. So, but, hmm. You ever thought maybe? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Give me just a sec. I need to get these guys
yep.
out of here. They're gonna drive me crazy. Come on, get out, out.
They're cute though.
Yeah, she's a cutie. When I'd forgotten how much work a puppy was, and
Oh
my
yeah.
my fiance wanted a puppy, so
Hmm.
now she's gonna bark. But no. So have you ever thought maybe they're trying to talk to you, and trying to tell you something? The
The
ghosts,
dogs.
the ghosts, or the parent, whatever's happening. To,
So I
'cause
I feel
got a few
I feel like
stories.
with ghosts, I feel like, if they can communicate, don't make it so vague that I have to guess. If you've got something to say to me, let me know
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's like I get almost where it's like almost like a motherly figure to the ghost. It's like if you got something to say to me,
yeah,
just say it. Don't make me guess if that was a sign or what the meaning of is this or
yeah.
what the meaning of was that. But yeah, I'd feel like you can if you feel like you're getting messages or you feel like you're getting someone's trying to connect with you, I would tell people to let them know that you're open to receiving messages or, please make it more clear so I know what it is, so I know what you're trying to tell me. Um, I feel like if they have the ability to do anything, then they can also make it clear.
Right. That's fair. Fair enough. Right on. You got any advice for anybody that might be listening to this and just wants to make a change or something? Any advice? Anything? I don't care.
Yeah,
Some
don't
parting
don't
words.
give up with if you're in a bad place, don't feel so hopeless. Know that, no matter how old you are, no matter if it's something from the way past or no matter if it's something you're going through now, don't give up on it. The time is going to pass anyway, no matter what you do. So just, keep working towards your goals, keep working towards what you want to do and go with your heart. Not, we were talking about before money. If you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about a new job or you have two different offers or you're thinking about courses for school or any change, go with your heart. Does this feel right and true for me? How does this feel within me? Not necessarily what's going to be the most money, what's going to be whatever. If it makes you happy, if you're interested in it, just go for it. Just do it.
I think that is very well said. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Pamela Topjian. Everybody, check her out. Buy her books. She's kind of awesome. Thanks for listening to my podcast today. If you made it this far, you're an angel, and thank you. Have a beautiful day.